Hey everyone, this is a Black Manga Critic here with another video for Weekly Shonen Jump Thursdays. Now I had to put out Boku no Hero Academia Chapter 149 out first because a lot of y'all on the channel, subscribers, people on Twitter, on Facebook, are Boku no Hero fans. And I know you come to this channel for this content, so I had to put it out first. Also because The Promised Neverland hasn't come out yet, and I probably would have done that first. But right now, this video is for you guys, for you all. So look forward to, the rest of the video. Also, if you're new to this channel and you haven't subscribed yet, like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell button when you do. Follow me on Twitter, like the page on Facebook, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. And now we can move on into the video. So when we're going into Boku no Hero Chapter 149, we clearly see that Horikoshi is again really emphasizing the parallelism that exists amongst the heroes, villains, and Yakuza. And I think what he does that's really wonderful is that he gives us three situations, right, that are very particular and that showcase that, whether you're a villain, a hero, or a Yakuza, the advantages that come with being one of those three things is very much so situational, right? So in the first situation, we get Toga, not Toga versus the heroes, but Toga being able to manipulate the heroes because she understands how heroes work, right? And a part of that is because, I think a part of that is because she's a villain. Villains know how they, how much they just want to do things. They don't really care too much about moral values or anything like that. At least good moral values or whatever, right? So in this situation, they understand that heroes are all about good moral values, acting, impulsively acting on those moral values, and, not thinking too much about what the sort of impact of those moral values are in the moment. So she understands all of those things and says that I can just sit back and let them do everything for me, right? And I think that's what's sort of really, really interesting. She sort of says, okay, I'm gonna, kind of manipulate them in a passive sort of way, right? She passively manipulates these heroes by just sitting back and not really doing much of anything. And so in that situation, we see that being a hero isn't, good in terms of sort of saying okay, I want to beat villains, right? You just help the villains. So in that sense, being a hero isn't very advantageous in any way because they're all moving forward, but them moving forward isn't particularly a huge deal necessarily. Yes, it gets them closer to saving the little girl, right? But all they've really gotten through is one particular Yakuza person. They may yet to still have they may yet have other Yakuza and right that they'll have to get through, right? Deku and Eraserhead are in no way in the clear necessarily. So if we want to get into the second situation, right, where we see Chisaki talking to Toga and Twice, we see that again. Whether you're whether you have an advantage as a hero or a villain or a Yakuza is very situational. So when we see Chisaki talking with the villains, in that situation, he has the upper hand. One, because the Yakuza are very much so about organization. And they're not about impulse, and they're not about, carnal desires or anything like that. They're just Chisaki is very much so meticulous, right? And in that way, he's able to manipulate Toga and Twice not because of any sort of questions or things of things that he's asking or anything like that, but because he has an individual who can clearly force the truth out of people. That's something that an organization would do, or someone like Chisaki would do. Always thinking about what he might need for a particular situation. Certain heroes don't do that, right? And most of the villains don't do that. The only villain that I've seen that really did anything like that was All For One. And he was a crazy, crazy badass, right? So that doesn't say much about the villains, in Boku no Hero. But if we're looking at the heroes are consistently allowing themselves to be manipulated, and they don't think things through necessarily because they want to go about and be the hero as quickly as possible, and that's why they move before they can think. But those things don't help them out in particular situations. And if we're looking at the villains, they're also impulsive nature doesn't help them, right? And lack of organization doesn't help them in this moment with Chisaki and Toga, with Chisaki talking to Toga and Twice, because they don't have a plan going into this conversation. They're just oh well, I didn't think that someone would be able to force the truth out of me. I didn't think any of these any of these things through. But Chisaki clearly has. That's like the biggest difference. Like if we're looking at one, why Chisaki has all the power in this situation, and two, why like you see like a key difference between right, not only Chisaki, not only the Yakuza as an organization and not being villains, and the villains, right? That's how when we see that difference is that one is clearly very organized and the other isn't. And the heroes are sort of somewhere in between. Like they are organized, but once they sort of go into doing the heroic act, all that organization sort of goes out the window, right? So I think that like if we're looking at that second situation, we see that Chisaki as a Yakuza has the advantage because of who he is as a Yakuza, as an organization, as an entity that is about being organized, being meticulous, and making sure that they can survive for the long haul. So the third situation, if we're looking at the third situation, we see Mirio, right, colliding with Chisaki, right? Like he's found Chisaki, and this is because he just ran forward, right? He did the hero thing, right? He wanted to be a hero. If you ever watch like a sport like basketball or football or something like that, it's very much so like, like a team, or even soccer, right? Like you'll see like players who are always trying to play like hero ball. They're always trying to like, make the, they're always trying to, make the touchdown or make the big catch or hit the last shot, the crazy last shot, or, make a crazy goal or something like that. And like heroes are very much so in Boku no Hero, and particularly in this situation, Mirio is like a hero to his detriment, right? We see that with Mirio, in some ways, right? Like he is very much so impulsive because like, this is not something that like the heroes told him to do. They didn't tell him to go forward and try to catch Chisaki. He did that on his own. And there's really, I don't think there's like any way that he's particularly at the same level as Chisaki in terms of battle experience and ability and things like that, right? Like in like if it's like a one-on-one fight, like I'm pretty sure Chisaki would kill this guy. Like he'd kill this kid. So we see that in this situation, right? In Mirio's sort of overwhelming desire to be a hero, to sort of right the wrong that was letting the little girl be taken by Chisaki earlier chapters, right? We see that he's like, going a little bit too hard. And it's, it's very reflective of like, sort of like Ida, and Ida sort of like, being like, trying to be a hero to his detriment, right? Like, and I mean, in that sense, he was very much kind of being a villain in a sense, because it wasn't really about saving anyone, right? It was just about getting revenge. But here, Mirio is sort of trying to be a hero in that he's trying to save someone. But it's to his detriment because he again, does the impulsive hero thing. And Chisaki is very organized. He understands that people are going to probably be coming after him. And maybe at some point, there might be one or two heroes that will be able to catch up to him relatively quickly. So I think at some level, he already understands that like this is a situation that was going to happen. So in this way, we've already seen that Chisaki is very organized. And if we've seen the extent to Chisaki's organization and meticulous nature, then we know that he's not particularly scared at this point. He's not worried about, Mirio as a threat or anything like that because he's probably already prepared for it, right? So what we see in this chapter are 3 points that really show us just how much Horikoshi, I think, like at least to me, is really pushing the writing thing. Like, it's really pushing really great writing, great narratives, great, and just like using those narratives to showcase just like what heroes are, what the Yakuza is, and what villains are, and how being each of those 3 things has its strengths and its weaknesses depending on the situation. This is a great chapter. I think he did a brilliant job with that, and I think that some people might be like, oh, like maybe a couple of things happened and like they're important in terms of sort of like the general narrative and stuff, and that's cool. Like, yeah, having a truth teller is definitely important to the narrative. The heroes moving forward is important to the narrative, right? And Mirio encountering Chisaki is also important to the narrative. But if we're looking at it in terms of like a writing and a structural standpoint, it's really, really good writing. So, that's why I say like this chapter is like definitely like, top 2 in terms of chapters that came out today. Because Hunter x Hunter came out today and that shit was like awesome. But this chapter was fantastic because I think it just did a really wonderful job at saying like, here's, the 3 ways in which heroes, villains, and here are the 3 ways in which I'm trying to show how interactions between these 3 entities can be advantageous based on the situation. So I think that Horikoshi did a great job. So yeah, that's basically my review of Boku no Hero chapter 149. Like I said, feel free to comment down in the comment section below. Find me on Twitter. I'm always on Twitter. And let's have this conversation. Also remember that I'm going to have a Boku no Hero live stream on Saturday. I'm going to have the Promised Neverland live stream tomorrow. But I'm going to have the Boku no Hero live stream on Saturday. And that's probably going to be around like noon. Or maybe a little bit early. Maybe like 11:30, something like that. For like, just for like time differences and stuff like that. So that people like, in like, Luxembourg, right? Like can come to the live stream, can, have things to say and interact with individuals and stuff like that. So be there. So I'm the Black Manga Critic with a review of Boku no Hero chapter 149, and I'm out.